Go. Welcome to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm your host, Jill, and today I have Polina Leroy with me. She is a PhD, a medical intuitive, and a holistic wellness coach. Paulina's she's realized that she can see inside the body while pursuing her academic career, which must have been just quite the experience. And since 2012, she's been helping women to restore their physical and mental health through the mind, body, spirit connection. Today, we're going to be diving into a whole host of topics, including mom rage, which is something we all know about, postpartum depression, which some of us like me having experienced, and how we can really heal through a holistic perspective. So I'm really excited. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
Excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you, and I would really love to hear this story of kind of your intuitive awakening, if you can call it that, during your academic career.
Yeah. It wasn't very fun one, I have to say. It was associated with my father dying from cancer, so I wouldn't say it was, exciting journey, but I realized that I can sense certain things that's happening in the body, and I felt something about my father. I kind of had this vision, I have this idea that he has a cancer and that it's going to be bad. And I asked him to go to doctor, and he went to doctor. He was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. And as soon as he was diagnosed, I was like, I got some confirmation of my fears, and I thought, that's going to be it. Like, he's not going to make it. And unfortunately, that's what happened. Although doctors were telling us that, no, he has a chance, we can do surgery and he'll be fine. Nothing helped. And after that, I felt that I know something, and I wasn't sure if I want to explore it. I wasn't sure if I want to see more of these messages, but at some point I hit the glass ceiling in my academic career, and I realized that I no longer want to be part of this because it felt kind of corrupted. At times I felt like I couldn't express myself, couldn't express my truth. And I started looking for other ways where I can, be useful, I guess, in this world. And I went for a coaching program that was 2 years. And we were diving deep into our intuition in our coaching program. And that's where I decided, okay, I will see what else my intuition can tell me. And it, turned out to be pretty powerful. I was resisting it for some time, probably as any person would do, right? Because someone who was all about empirical data and evidence, for me, jumping into, hey, I can see inside the body, was quite a stretch. But step by step, I would say I had a little shifts. Oh, this is what I can do. Oh, that was me who was able to see that, and I realized that if I allow myself to be this intuitive person, if I give this intuitive gift space, they can grow and I can see more and more. And so at some point, I think it was like 2012, when I okay, I'm just gonna go for it. And I was working mostly with women, and I would have clients coming to me, and I would go inside the body, and I would just ask the body to guide me and show me what's happening inside the body and what's causing this problem, and show me what's causing these problems. And I had women coming to me with all sorts of problems like cancer or autoimmune conditions or weight gain. And I would just ask the body to teach me what's happening inside the body, show me. And I was learning more and more about it. So I'm not a medical professional, right? I am definitely not qualified to diagnose symptoms, but I like to say that sometimes I can represent the body and I can hear what body is saying to us. And it can be very insightful sometimes. Yeah.
I really like how you said that
It
to
definitely
represent.
good. It definitely, I would say, can be a good addition to what the Western medicine says. You know, it's a little different perspective, but it's additional, right? It's a um, yeah, a different angle, different perspective on problems that we all kind of aware of. I think it can be quite insightful.
Yeah. And I can only imagine that this also extends to understanding the sort of emotional body, if you will, right? And is that sort of where the work with the moms comes in, and understanding these sort of things that happen to our bodies and our emotions and our hormones after we become mothers? How do you
Right.
work in that capacity? Tell me what that looks like and how you got started down that vein as well.
Well, first of all, I want to just clarify that to me, it's very hard to separate those things because when I'm inside the body, I can see energy, and every thought has energy, every emotion has energy, right? Every feeling has energy. And those are different energies. Every pathogen, like virus or bacteria, has energy, and you can sense them in the body. You can see them. I can. And I'm sure many people can learn how to do it too, but it takes some time for most of us. And so when I work inside the body, I see those different energies, and it's hard for me to separate them and say, here's what I'm working on. Don't show me this, for example. And like it's all present there and it's all intertwined. And what I realized, for example, working with the physical aspect of the body, because that's what usually people come with, right? The physical body is forcing them to pay attention to the body. So they would come with some kind of diagnosis or pain, and I'm focusing on the physical aspect. The emotional aspect always arises because it is there, and like you cannot ignore it. For example, the feelings that we store inside the body, they can affect our organs. For example, liver can be stagnant because of anger that's stored in the liver, or hatred that we store there. Resentment can affect usually the liver and kidneys, right? It's there. I cannot ignore it when I see it. And so these feelings, they are present in the body, and they all contribute to what's happening on the physical aspect. You can't just I can't separate them. They're there. But when I became a mother myself, I was forced to learn more about all of that because of my own experience. It's not like I had a special interest for mothers, and what's happening, but I was forced to take a closer look because that was my experience. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression probably, 3 months along the way, and it was so bad. It was like I've never experienced anything like this before. It was such a dark place to be. Um, and I was waiting for my baby for so long, and of course she was such a long waited child, and everyone loved her before even she was born. And I wanted to be a perfect mother for her, like I know so many women want. And then I realized that I'm not the person who can be a perfect mother for her. I'm not a perfect mother. Like I'm such a horrible mother because I couldn't control my emotions, because I was freaking out and I was constantly angry. I had this I told my husband, like I became a monster, and he would tell me that you're not the person I know, right? And this shift just happened so suddenly out of nowhere, and I was forced to learn what's going on inside my body and why I experience all these emotions, because that wasn't something I was prepared for, and I had to figure out what it is.
Wow. And I think so many listeners can relate to this, because if you've gone through this life changing, body changing event of giving birth or of being pregnant, whether it results in live birth or not, or whether it's a C-section or whatever the case, right? We have these changes and we have this
Hmm.
experience that we, I think, expect to be so beautiful, and it is, but there's a shadow side to it that can often come out when we least expect it, and we're
Hmm.
in no physical or mental state to be able to be prepared to deal with it, right? Um, how do you help, like, if someone is experiencing, let's say, postpartum depression or this mom rage, what are the tools that you walk them through? Because I think that the way that you approach this is likely very different from what they would receive, let's say, from a medical doctor, or that maybe they've heard about before. So can you share some of the tools or places to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will share my journey because I sometimes, I don't feel like sharing others' journeys, but mine can be very um, self-explanatory. So what I realized by learning about my own body is that when well, let's say with the pregnancy itself, right? The pregnancy itself, it's such a mm, wearing process for our body. It is wearing all our systems, right? It is such an incredible work that our body is doing, and our organs often work overtime. And we can feel it sometimes because when we feel tired, right? We feel this fatigue. But it's not only about the fatigue, it's knowing that the kidneys have to do a lot of work, pretty much double work. The liver has to do a lot of work more than usual because all this, the fat is growing, and then the place of the placenta itself and all this process, it takes like double load for our organs to make sure that the baby is growing properly. And so the liver has to do such incredible work just to filter in all this um, additional blood, right? And the baby's blood is not functioning until the baby's born,
Mm.
right? And it's a lot of work for the body. And now imagine when we actually give birth. When we give birth, our adrenal glands experience such a stress because we have to come up with such an amount of energy, right, to push through this, sometimes for hours, long hours. Like my birth was 37 hours. It's a long time to be awake. As a And where do you take this energy? Usually we don't have much time to eat, right? And even if we eat something, we not really kind of sometimes even process it. So where do we take all this energy? Adrenal glands have to pretty much utilize all their resources to give us this energy, to finally give this push and get the baby out. And when we in this state of shock and stress, all the stress hormones in the bloodstream, they're not meant to be there. They're toxic for the body. And what has to step in? The liver again. The liver has to remove all these toxic hormones, stress hormones out of the bloodstream so they wouldn't damage our body because they're very toxic. And so the liver is experiencing another load of work, right? And it's for most livers, it's too much. And that's why when the liver can't contain all these toxins and stress hormones inside, it usually will spill them out in the bloodstream. And through the bloodstream, they end up in the brain. And depending where it's settling in, they can affect the part of the brain that's responsible for experiencing depression, anxiety, or, for example, rage. Another aspect of it is that all these toxins in the bloodstream can actually contribute to higher viral load and nervous system inflammation. The nervous system generally can be inflamed. And that's why it's so hard for us to regulate nervous system that's actually being physically inflamed. How can you control your emotions if your whole nervous system is on fire, right? It's almost impossible. And so it takes a lot of time, I would say months, sometimes years, for women's body to recover. Usually younger we are, the less time it will take. But with age, it takes longer for our body to restore all these basic functions to function properly. And we all know it's happening while we usually sleep deprived, right? We overloaded with responsibilities, taking care of little one that can't do anything without us, right? So it's such a huge load, emotional, mental, physical, on us, while our bodies malfunctioning pretty much. So it's hard. And what we can do is, I think definitely we want to ask for help, so we would have at least time to sleep normal hours, right? Because sleep is a restoring process for the body. Sleep is when we balance our hormones, when the liver has time to cleanse itself, right? It's so critical. Adrenal glands have time to restore and balance itself. So sleep is, I would say, number one thing we should pay attention. And another one is take care of the liver through liver detox. Because remember, all these toxins that spill in the bloodstream, they can only be removed by properly functioning liver. And so we need to take care of the liver, and it will help us definitely to get back to normal state of mind.
That's really interesting. And
Does it
when
make
you,
sense?
yeah, it does. And I've never thought about it like that before. I appreciate that perspective. And it just makes me think too about like the only thing that I would know to do to detox my liver is just like to limit alcohol. Are there other ways that we can support our liver, in addition to not pounding it with poison all the time?
Right. Oh God, so much. Actually, we can do so much. And yeah, not drinking alcohol is definitely would be helpful, but that's only one tiny step towards it. Another thing we can do, well, let's start with what the liver wants, right? And I hear it all the time because I talk to the livers all the time. So what livers want is they want glucose. That's not common. Usually people don't think about it, but livers like and need glucose. It needs good sugar. Good sugar, I mean the sugar that's naturally present in fruits and vegetables, right? So lots of fruits that has water, has sugar, has vitamins, minerals in it. It's probably the best thing you can give to the liver, because liver needs glucose, it needs water, it needs minerals, vitamins, and it needs oxygen. So giving a lot of fruits to the liver and probably minimizing fats. And I'm saying minimizing because we need healthy fats, but we don't need them first as much as we are told, and definitely not as much as it's present in our culture.
Right.
So I would say minimizing fats, because then the thing we need to understand about the livers is one of the main functions of the liver is producing bile to break down fats. And so the liver is constantly busy with producing bile to break down fats. It doesn't have much time to focus on other functions, right? As a detoxing plant itself, for example, right? So if we give liver some break from breaking down fats and producing bile, then it can focus on detoxifying itself and bloodstream. So that would be probably one of the most important things that I would recommend. And I did liver detox for myself several times, and I did the physical aspect, right, taking care of my body, and also I did mental health aspect, having a therapist, talking to a therapist about what's happening in my life. And she was kind of, when I started talking, and I have to be honest, and I think it's important to understand for many mothers out there, is that your first therapist doesn't have to be your last.
Yes.
Right? You can change therapists. It's important to understand. If you feel like you're not aligned with a therapist, you can definitely look for another one, because you have to feel heard seen, understood by the person you're working with. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
I definitely had a few experiences when I was in the throes of postpartum depression and anxiety where the therapist was not a match for me and it caused problems. But luckily, or unluckily, but I had had experience with therapists before. And I knew that, I could change. And just because this one didn't fit didn't mean it wasn't going to work for me. So I was very quick to identify and change. But I think I actually hear that a lot, is that people get stuck and they think that
Right.
it's not working or whatever. But I mean,
It's not for me, right?
yeah,
They
and
say it's
it's
not for me, but it's not like the therapy is not for you. This particular therapist maybe is not good for you.
right. Right. And it's one piece of the puzzle too, right? There are so many things that we can do through our nutrition, through our health, through our like all these different things spiritually. Like there are so many things that we can do to support ourselves. So I'm just thinking about the mom right now who's listening to this episode and thinking, wow, my mind just got blown. How can I learn more from Polina? Because this is taking me down a rabbit hole. So
Right.
what does the one-on-one or group work, or like how do you work with people?
I do work still one-on-one, but I also offer in group coaching, and I have a actually holistic wellness membership for women where women can connect and, first of all, I think unload, because I think it's so important. We have so much going on in our life, and just have some safe space where we can unload all the heavy feelings that we have to keep. And, all this, even, tight lips and all the stress that we try not to show to our kids, just to kind of get through the day without dumping it all on them. I think it's so important to have a space where we can connect and actually be ourselves and talk about the problems that we're facing, whether physical or emotional aspect, and actually get a feedback and get some tips how you can restore your health, and physical and mental, because I think they're inseparable and they have and should be addressed together. So in my holistic wellness membership, we talk about the physical and mental aspect as well. And I guide women how to understand their bodies' sign language, because body is always talking to us, right? And it's so important that we learn how to understand our bodies instead of listening to some experts on social media or even doctors. Sometimes even doctors don't understand what's happening in your body. The only a person who knows about the body is you, because you are the one who's experiencing all these symptoms. And so I think it's so important to understand your own body and be able to, stay in touch with it and learn from it. And it can be so incredibly beneficial for us.
Yeah.
But I think a community also, and having a coach is important, because it's someone who will keep you accountable in this chaos of life, which I totally understand because I'm a mother too, right? And we constantly have to take care of others, right? And it's so difficult for us actually to prioritize our own needs. We need someone who will remind us about it.
Mhm.
What did you do for yourself today? When I started working with a therapist and she would ask me this question, it was such a good question for me to hear, because it was straight on point. And she asked me, I have like a 7-month baby, and she's asking me, what do you do for yourself? I'm like, what kind of question is that? What do I do for myself? And she was like, no, really, what do you do for yourself? Not for baby, for you. And I was like, well, okay, I'm getting coffee in the morning and I'm getting croissant. And she was like, surely you can do better than that.
Been
And it
there.
was it was a good point that yes, I can take care of myself better, and my therapist, she would hold me accountable, and she would definitely encourage me to come up with more ideas what I can do for myself. And I realized that when I take care of my needs more, I show up as a better mom,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is, I probably think, is no surprise for mothers who listen to us. When we actually prioritize our needs, we become better mothers.
I remember first hearing that and my mind was blown. And if you're in the space of learning and growing and like doing the work in any area of your life, your health, your parenting, your business, your spirituality, whatever, if you're doing the work, the mindset stuff, you've probably come across this idea that like you have to pour from a full cup. You have to take care of yourself so you can show up in the way that you want for your family. But it was really radical when I realized that, because when you're in the thick of it, you need someone else to point it out. So to
Right.
your point, having a community, having a coach, having a support person or accountability partner, um, is so valuable, especially for those moms who are in the thick of it, right in those early days. And because of the physical requirement, it's hard to mentally separate yourself from your baby in some cases. And you forget. I forgot all about myself, you know? So I really encourage anyone listening to reach out and follow along. And we'll have all of the links for Polina's website and Instagram and all of that stuff on how you can connect with her. But reach out, and if you're feeling called to community, if you're feeling called, if there's something that's just not quite right and you want a little help investigating it, or you want someone to be there to hold your hand through the journey who's been there and gets it, like this is your permission slip. This is your invitation. So before we wrap up, I always like to just check and see, is there anything on your heart that we haven't shared yet today or that feels really important to end with?
I think because we're talking about motherhood, I think it's so important to understand that when we start taking care of ourselves and our bodies, that's the something we can actually pass to our children as well. It's not gonna end with you. You're gonna be, and you are a role model for them, right? So that's what I noticed. Because when I was growing as a child, eating fruits, for example, wasn't part of the thing. Like it wasn't just common in my family. Like we would never have fruits in our kitchen table. Just not something we would pay attention to. But when I started taking care of my body, I make sure that we have a lot of fruits present and available, right? Easily available. They're all pre-washed and you can just grab and eat them, right? And I noticed that my daughter is much more used to eating a lot of fruits right now than I was. And I think that's already a big win for me, that she doesn't have any conditions, although she was born with um, jaundice, which is compromised liver. But I knew how to address it, and thanks God we addressed it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And right now she's a healthy baby, and I understand that everything that I do right now, I'm showing her the way, what is normal. And I think it's so important for us to understand that our eating habits, they're not born out of nowhere. We copy our parents, we copy what we see in our families. And so for us as parents and mothers, it's so important to be a role model, to actually show the healthy eating habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And healthy habits in general and taking care of ourselves. And that's why it's so important. That's sort of the leverage that we need to take care of ourselves sometimes, is really understanding that it doesn't end with us. It's not really about us. It's about that ripple effect for our kids and our
Mm-hmm.
community and our family members, because that's the push we need, because it's hard for moms to say yes to taking care of themselves. So I love that you frame it that way. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your wisdom. It was uh, so wise and such a gift to learn from you. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to share.